tell us a little bit about your role at NatWest and how it intersects with climate change and what brought you to COP26?
We take climate very seriously at NatWest. It is one of our 3 pillars, focused on actually supporting the client through their transition from a lending perspective as well as the underwriting perspective, as well as then the extension into COOTS, looking at very sustainable funds on the issuer side as well as on the investor side to incorporate sustainability, not just the strategy, actually helping with the sort of data requirements, the emissions mapping, and really trying to see how they can embed that into their own process, looking into the sustainable linked bond market, sustainable linked FX. It obviously broadens it out into slightly more social elements as well, but we find that still most of those KPIs are actually very heavily tilted towards emissions and the reduction of emissions or increased capacity of renewable energy.
What are some of the key developments that you've seen so far that have really stood out for you?
This sort of depth of this conference, which is fascinating to have obviously government and policy, and then having sort of the populist movement in there, which is great. Finance has not traditionally been so present at the table, and I think this underpins the whole kind of decision of how we are now moving forward on collaboration between large corporations, between governments, financial institutions, also the charitable sector, the NGOs, and really trying to find a mix, as they so rightly call it, blended finance, to provide the type of finance that's needed to actually support that journey, looking at targets and milestones that are a little bit closer. Hence, we are all accountable. The conversation around food and agriculture and public health is not on the agenda, yet we're so cognizant of that interlinkage to ensure that we bring everybody along on this journey.
So how are you at NatWest tackling this broader agenda on sustainable finance, and what do you see as some key trends?
To really bring everybody along on this journey, we actually do need to look at the ESG to support communities in underprivileged neighborhoods. What we've sort of spearheaded over the last couple of weeks is a report on the Springboard to Recovery, which is focused on the SMEs in the UK, helping the economic recovery, generating new jobs, upskilling, looking at their decarbonisation pathways, as well as supporting new clean climate tech companies that we will need, both from an adaptation and mitigation point. We work very closely with social providers, where again, you're really trying to bring that finance and that access to finance more broadly into areas that really need it.
On the ground, what are some of the key milestones that you would see looking forward?
Right now we have so many different standards, and there are 200 frameworks out there across 40 countries. For finance in many ways to work, we need to bring these a little bit closer together, focusing on disclosure and reporting, finding sort of a handful of KPIs that we all can support, changing some of the reporting metrics that will be required going forward, which obviously aligns with TCFD that is already being pushed forward. That's going to be just huge. And I think 2022 is going to be an instrumental year to bring that together and make that disclosure very accessible to other stakeholders. So that to me is one of those vital points to kind of unlock some of this capital.